guarding man-to-man, but there were times I had to get him man-to-man. And
favorite team that you guys love to face in your division?
Yours.
Yes, sir.
Like the games like you play against the Raiders, you might get 3 sacks. When they had Jamarcus Russell, which I did. So I got 3 sacks on them in the first half, right?
Yeah.
And I'm ready, and they take Tommy Maddox.
All right, everyone, welcome into the War Room where rivals collide. I am Matt. I will be hosting today, and always by my side, my partners in crime, the Shovicks brothers. Corey representing Broncos country, and Austin representing the third place Chiefs Kingdom. And guys, we got a very special guest, Jason Webster. He's backstage right now. Excited to be here. We're going to bring him on in just a second. First, quick shout out to our sponsors. Again, West War Room Rivals from the JBW Solutions Studio. Jeff and his crew, huge sponsor for us, taking care of us. Angie and her team at Emporia State Federal Credit Union. Shovicks Brothers Banking of Choice. Troy from Field Ops, Field Marking. The Beard Club, Shank-It Golf, Badger Barrel Cookers, and Homage. All the links are below. Make sure you check out their website. Austin and I are wearing their merch right now. But guys, without further ado, let's go ahead and bring on our very special guest, Texas A&M alumni. He was actually voted amongst his teammates for the Aggie Heart Award for his leadership and dedication. Former 9-year veteran defensive back, Jason Webster. Right. Jason, nice to meet you. Thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you guys for inviting me on.
So we're going to go ahead and roll off with some college questions. I know in our rundown we have Cody on here. Cody is taking care of some work business tonight, so he won't be able to join us. So we'll still ask his questions over there. He likes to ask, to kind of to start everything off, is what drew you to Texas A&M, and kind of walk us through that recruiting process for you.
What drew me to Texas A&M? So it came down to 5 choices, and it was Kansas. Believe it or not, it was right at the top, even though they were known to be a basketball school. I wanted to play offense and, be a receiver and, run with the ball in my hands. And so Kansas is right there at the top. They had a plan for me. Great recruiter. He was the offensive coordinator at the time. Came into my house, met my parents and everything, and I was ready to sign on a dotted line. So, and it was one of my first visits, and one of my high school teammates was also, he was currently at KU playing linebacker, and I just felt like it was a good fit initially. So Kansas was right at the top, and then Texas Tech was there in the mix, and those schools recruited me as a defensive back. Texas Tech, and also it was Texas came in late. So SMU was also in the mix, and BYU was kind of like the dark horse. And but I decided to go with Texas A&M because close to home, from Houston, Texas, and I wanted to be close to family. It was big for me and important for me, for my parents to be able to come and watch me play, and my brothers and sisters. So that was one of the main reasons at the time when I chose Texas A&M. And also a guy that ended up being my roommate at Texas A&M was on a visit with me as well. And we played Little League football together. We ran summer track and field together. We went to rival high schools. He was a linebacker. I was a running back at the time. So we went head to head. We were better friends when we became roommates at Texas A&M than we were when we growing up together, because we were kind of both lived on the south side of Houston, but we were on kind of different sides. So I chose Texas A&M because it was all of those things close to home, buddy I grew up with. And also that was the year when they transitioned from the Southwest Conference into the Big 12.
Okay.
So I was going to have the opportunity to play on TV, and also um, they also had two cornerbacks that were coming off ACL injury, and the pitch was giving me the opportunity to play as a freshman. So I jumped at the chance, and the rest is history.
So when you went on the trip to KU today, was that basketball season at all? Did you get a chance to get into Allen Fieldhouse for a game?
No, they took me into the field house. I remember, and I just on that recruiting visit, I remember laughing most of the trip because my my teammate from high school, my high school was just, I mean, he was on the roll. I mean, it didn't matter what he said, I was just laughing. It was just good, clean, good old fashioned fun. So I was like, man, I could really see myself here. But no, I didn't get a chance to go into the field house and watch a basketball game.
Yeah, so we'll now that we know that you went to Texas A&M and kind of what landed you there, how did the Aggie football shape your football mindset going from, Aggies to the NFL?
Oh man, that was a great question. I would, to this day, I say that I had some of the best teammates in college than my entire football career. And I could start naming them, and you guys may or may not recognize them, but they were near and dear to my heart. And I think that was one thing that shaped, football moving forward for me. Just my teammates, we played for one another. And I think, that's pretty common in collegiate sports. And I think that's why, many people watch college football more than pros because of that. It seems more genuine, just, togetherness. But that was one thing, just my teammates, that shaped me. And then, my coaches, and right at the top was R.C. Slocum.
Yep.
Coach Slocum, yeah, he cared about W's, wins, and losses. But, I can say, with all confidence that he was more concerned about us becoming men, the men to, really, carry on legacies and, be good fathers and good husbands to our wives if we chose to get married. And that's one thing that he always preached on. So those things, and also just, doing your job, that was key, doing your job and doing it well. And he was very big on that. And I think, even the last thing would probably be the most important thing for him as it relates to X's and O's on the football field was that if you cost the team, I mean, he would lose it. He wouldn't lose it a lot, but unsportsmanlike conduct was a big no. He was like, I remember those things. I mean, it didn't happen a lot because we knew his standard, but those things carried me to the next level. They were instilled in us.
Nice.
Mhm.
So when did you realize that the NFL was going to be a reality?
Up until, I mean, the day I was drafted. I mean, I didn't, I did not know. I knew that, I was playing good football, probably starting my junior year. Got scored my first touchdown. It was a punt return against Oklahoma in '98. That was a big moment for me because that was my first collegiate touchdown. And I started playing some pretty good ball. And I thought that I had a shot. Um, Really, my senior year, I started off the year, and I got a few picks, and I was like, okay, this is good. I didn't have cornerback confidence, I would say. my entire collegiate career. It really kind of kicked in my junior and senior year. And, when I got invited to the combine and the Senior Bowl that was kind of like, okay, maybe I'll have a shot, to get drafted. And that's all I wanted. I just wanted a shot to say, you know what, I gave it my best, and, I got drafted, and it didn't matter what team. I just wanted the shot. So yeah, I would probably say, the end of my junior year. Mhm.
And before we get to the next question, so we told you
Mhm.
before we came on that we had a friend that was a huge A&M fan. There he is, right there.
Yeah.
There's Justin.
Wasn't gonna miss
Yeah.
it.
Wasn't gonna miss it.
What's up, Justin?
There you go. So
Mm.
thanks, Justin, for the comment. So now
Yeah.
that we know, I kind of want to know, and it's fun because we've heard so many different stories regarding draft night, the draft night experience for everybody, whether it was, hey, I wasn't even, I wasn't paying attention at all. I kind of, Kuika Mitchell, we had him on not too long ago. He was, I believe his wife was giving birth to their child draft night. So he was actually getting some food with his sister. So let's hear your story on draft night.
So it was draft during that day, was actually during the daytime, and it was of course it was in, spring, and Houston, Texas. You never know what you're gonna get. And it was hot, and it was humid, and I remember that the air condition was off in our home.
Ooh.
Okay, so I had some friends and family over, and I was just watching the board. I was watching, to see if I was going to get drafted. And um going back, remember, I got invited to the Senior Bowl, and I actually started in the Senior Bowl. And as fast forward to draft day, I start seeing some of these corners that I started in front of at the Senior Bowl get drafted. They start coming off the board. And I was like, oh man, so I started getting nervous, and so I was like, man, what can I do? What can I do? And me and my mother started passing out popsicles to the people that were at the house. So we were passing out these popsicles, and I had my phone on me at the time. And as I got passing out, like 4 or 5 popsicles, I got the phone call, and it was the San Francisco 49ers. Dave Ron, I will never forget Dave's name. And Dave was like, hey man, how would you like to be a 49er? And I don't know, my brain just cramped up, and I just said, yeah. I said, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I said that like 40 times. And he said, well, let me get you on to, our head coach, Coach Steve Mariucci.
Hmm.
And I was just, so I, before the call, I mean, when I got the call, I walked into the garage, and, as I'm talking to Dave, tears just start rolling down my cheeks. And I was like, man, this is finally my opportunity to, you know, live my childhood dream and, get drafted. So that was pretty much the draft story for me.
No, that's great, and thanks
Yeah.
for sharing that. So, kind of transition to that now. So now you're coming in as a second round pick. You got 49ers obviously in the second round. What's that first training camp experience like with the 49ers?
Oh man. So it was I just didn't know what to expect. I was so because I was a second draft pick, and that 49ers team in 2000 had eight draft picks. So I was kind of in that in between. They had 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks. I was the second of the second-round picks. So, you know, they were trying to sign these guys to get them in. So I actually ended up a week, or no, I think I ended up being late to camp. I don't remember how late, but I was pretty anxious because I didn't know how much to train in order to be in shape for camp. So I was just doing jump rope and doing, as much and little as I could, because I didn't want to be too tired, too worn out and too tired. I wanted to be, to have fresh legs so I could, earn my keep and let them know what I could do. So so that was my experience, and I was ready to get there. Got a chance to play with be teammates to some of my childhood idols like Jerry Rice and
Uh,
and Ken Norton. Man, it couldn't have been a better experience for me as a fan of football and a 49ers fan at the time. Of course, I loved the Houston Oilers, but they were not in existence when I was drafted. It was the Texans. So um that was my experience. Like I just wanted to get there. I just wanted to be there. And but they had to work out the contracts and everything, and I wasn't able to get there until that was done.
yeah. So with that, was there anything that you quickly kind of learned in the NFL that college maybe didn't prepare you for? Was there a moment or process that you're like, crap, college didn't quite prepare me for this?
Man, these are some great questions because they bring back so many memories. Some not so sweet, but yes, absolutely. I remember um you know playing cornerback going against Terrell Owens in training camp, right?
Mm,
And Terrell is like, he's like 6'2", 6'3", right? And everybody knows his physique and everything. He's a strong guy. So, I was, faced, well, it was one-on-one, and I tried to jam him at the line, put my hands in his chest and stop his progress, okay, at the line of scrimmage. And he violently grabbed both of my wrists and kind of threw me back. And I landed on my butt, back, and the back of my head in that moment. And I had never so violent in the football sense before. And at that moment I was thinking, okay, this is the NFL, and I will never try to do that again to Terrell Owens. And I didn't. And it really, like, I really didn't try to do that to any receiver in the NFL since that moment, because I was like, you know what, it's a recipe for disaster, because I wasn't the tallest guy. My arms are not as long as some of the other guys that play the position. So it was a lesson well learned, for sure. It was like, okay, this is the big leagues.
Would you
Yeah.
say that was your welcome to the NFL moment?
That was a welcome to the NFL moment. It was so bad that Terrell actually apologized, like,
Oh.
after practice.
Oh, wow.
It was bad, and I didn't want it. I was just like, no, man, you did what you had to do. But you won't get that opportunity again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, speaking of receivers, back when you first came in the league, there was a lot of prolific receivers out there, especially, in our division, Dante Hall, Rod Smith, Tim Brown. But in the league in general, was there ever a receiver that you always looked forward to matching up to?
Oh man, another great question. It was man, I had played against so many just competitive guys um in the league, just starting off. I mean, starting off at practice, with Jerry Rice and Terrell Owens. It was JJ Stokes, Todd
Yeah.
Streets. It was competition, at practice every day. But in our division during that time, I had the opportunity to play against the greatest show on turf with Marshall Falk, and they had Oz Akeem, they had Torrey Holt and Isaac Bruce. And then, that was a challenge. And then you talk about the NFC West in Seattle, with Jackson, and they had some guys who could like score up, and Hasselback was the quarterback, and Alexander was the running back. So it was, it wasn't just one guy I enjoyed. A guy that I really enjoyed to compete against was Joe Horn with the Saints. Joe, if you know anything about New Orleans football, Joe Horn was a competitor, man. He would compete, and he would talk the talk too. But he gave me and Ahmed Plummer, because Ahmed was the cornerback on the other side, got drafted in the first round, by San Francisco. In 2000 with me, he gave us the biggest compliment. He was like, man, you young guys, man, you guys are going to be good. Keep fighting, keep working hard, man. I look forward to, competing against you guys in the future. And man, that did the world for me. I was like, oh man, Joe Horn said that about me. So yeah, Joe Horn. I mean, there was also, um, I could name a few guys that were, just they just come out and compete every single week, and it made you, you know, we had to prepare, we had to make sure that we were ready, every Sunday.
Yeah. So I one more from me on in this section. It would be, you see the AFC West secondaries now. We obviously have Pat Surtain in Denver, Trent McDuffie at Kansas City, and the Chargers have a pretty good defense. We won't bring the Raiders up because obviously their defense is kind of nowhere up far. So what do you see in young secondaries now that that impresses you the most?
Yeah. And I say this with all due respect, but the good secondaries really stand out.
Yeah.
And I'll say that because there's so much passing. There's so much more, passing these days than it was when I was playing. Of course, there was passing, but I mean, you would get, maybe 50-50, when I was playing ball. But now it's like almost 70-30, right? They're passing on first down, they're passing on second down. First down used to be an automatic rundown. Okay. As a cornerback, you could kind of, you know, not to take the play off, but man, this guy's not going to get the ball. The ball's going to be handed off. But nowadays, there's so much passing, that the good secondary stand out, and that goes hand in hand with the good pass rushes. So you mentioned Pat Surtain. I mean, I watched him. I don't study football, like, of course, like I used to, but I watched some of his games, and man, he is a great technician. His dad was too when he played for Miami, but Patrick, man, he is. I think we're going to be talking about him for a long time as being one of the best in the game. So that, and he's on a good defense. Denver has a good defense, good pass rush. Now watch them, dismantle the Falcons last year. But but yeah, but yeah, so good secondaries to me, they stand out because there's so much passing. So you got a good secondary, and you are, the Falcons. Speaking of them, they have, well, I think before this last game, they were, one of the top in the league, and I think because you know, they do have a good secondary, but that pass rush, man. I mean, if you can say 1,001, 1,000, 1,002, 1,003, and a quarterback has to get rid of the ball, man, that makes your job a whole lot easier, and one of the toughest positions on the football field.
Yeah, we've
Mhm.
we've discussed with previous corners with like Eric Warfield and Quentin Jammer and stuff of
Yeah.
how it's actually a little more difficult, they think, to play corner now because
Mhm.
you can't be as physical with them, and you can't
Yeah.
necessarily make them feel your impact early in a game to where it might catch up later in a game. So we did
Yeah.
actually think it's one of the hardest positions to play in all of sports, just
Yes.
given that like you're going backwards trying to defend someone who knows where they're going forward full speed.
Yeah.
And especially nowadays when you can't be physical with them, like we did have that talk where we think it's one of the most difficult positions to play in sports, just in general. So I agree with you on that one.
Yeah. I'm partial. I'm partial. It is. It's like, you think about it, it's the only position on the field where you literally run full speed forward and backpedal full speed. It's the only position. You got to do both. You got to be able to do both full speed. So
Yeah, and make sure you turn the hips right, and then you also got to
yes.
stay with the guy while also trying to turn and play the ball while going full speed? Hey, you ain't got to tell me, like, well, I guess you should tell me since you're the expert here, but like,
All right. And figure out what route they're trying to run.
Yeah.
And
Yes. all of that stuff, man. Diagnosing plays, but it was great challenge, and I'm thankful for that. For that. I mean, it makes life. It makes I would say going through the tough times as a cornerback, transitioning from running back to cornerback in college. It makes it made any job that I did feel like, I mean, I can do this. If I did that, I know I can do this. It may take me some time to learn, but I feel like I can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then kind of our last question in the NFL part before we move on to the lightning round and fun stuff to wrap it up to get you out of here on time.
Okay.
Do you have any former teammates that you kind of leaned on when you first got into the league and kind of helped you throughout the season or maybe your career?
hmm Yeah, absolutely. I mentioned him earlier. Ahmed Plummer was one of the guys that I leaned on. And Ahmed, even though we were the same age, we got drafted in the same class, I felt like he was just, exit or two ahead of me as it relates to his maturity. He taught me some things about, the position, definitely, because he went to Ohio State, and they were DBU for a while too, with Antoine Winfield coming out before him. And so Ahmed was the type of guy that didn't get too high, didn't get too low. He was really even keeled, and he I never forget. I mean, he was injured one game. This is the last game of my career. And I'll keep the story short, but I remember he was injured my last game in San Francisco, not in my career, last game in San Francisco. And I was coming off injury myself, and he was like, "Jay, man, you got this, man." Like, he said something like, "Man, they can't run with you, man. Get up and, challenge them." And that meant a lot coming from me. He just knew what to say and when to say it, to me. And that was really encouraging. And I had other teammates that, were encouraging, but I really kind of just stuck close with Ahmed because, we played the same position. We worked just the same. Jim Moore was our coach, and he really, really sold and poured into us for our betterment. And it just, we began to grow together, with Jim's leadership, and, Brett Maxey was also there. So, though the early years were the years that really stuck out as it relates to my growth and development and players and coaches that I leaned on.
Perfect. And let's transition here real quick to the lightning round. So we had John Abraham on, and if I remember correctly, you got one season in with John in Atlanta.
I did, yes.
He was a character, and he was a high energy guy during our interview. Was he always like that when you were around him too?
No, not always. Our lockers were right next to one another, right? So, and John, he used to get all this free stuff, and I remember one day, he was sitting next to him in the locker room, and he had a pair of shoes, tennis shoes, and I was like, man, those are nice, man. And I was messing around. I was like, what size you wear? And he was like, no, what size you wear? And I told him, and he had the shoes for me. Like, I don't know if it was later on, but I was like, man, it just meant a lot to me for a teammate just to think about me and give me something that, I mean, it was nice, like shoes that I wanted, not like a, t-shirt or anything. It was some really nice shoes. So that was one of the most memorable moments with Abe. So he was really kind, a good teammate, but he was high energy when it came to game day. And in the locker room. But since then, I think he's really calmed down. I've seen him a few times, and but that was my experience with Abe. Gave me a pair of shoes that
Perfect. Matt, you want to go ahead and ask yours real quick, and we'll end with Austin?
Yeah. So speaking of like the locker room stuff, we've had a few former players come on and they like to share any pranks that they put on each other in the locker room. So was there any pranks that you remember pulling on or getting done to you while in the locker room?
That can be shared.
That can be shared, yeah.
I don't remember any pranks being pulled. But I just remember in my San Francisco days how frowned upon it was to leave the locker room after practice and not take a shower. Like it was one of those things where and guys would sit around and wait to see who would get dressed without going in the shower and take a shower. And they made the biggest deal, and they called it like a shower pill. So, Derek Deese, he's the offensive lineman for us, and Jeremy Newberry, offensive lineman for San Francisco, doing that time in the early 2000s, and they would just make the biggest deal. So, I wasn't that guy, but I just got a kick out of them pointing guys out and them try to duck out and put their hoods on and sneak out without washing up before they went home.
That's awesome. So,
Yeah.
we do usually like to end with one question
Mhm.
with each interview. It's kind of one of the ones that we've enjoyed asking the most. So, when people hear the name Jason Webster,
Mhm.
what do you want them to remember you by?
Oh man, great question. As it relates to, putting on the helmet and the pads and playing on the football field, I would want them to remember a guy that played with passion, played the game the way it's supposed to be played, with tenacity, sportsmanship, and dedication to the game of football, and disrespected my craft, and was a great teammate, and was a great listener to his coaches, and was was one of those guys that they would love to be a teammate of, if I wasn't your teammate. And so yeah, those things, those are the thing, what I would want them to remember me by.
Absolutely. And Jason, we know you got to get out of here. And again, truly, it was an honor to have you on the show, hearing your journey, your experiences. This is one of the reasons why we love doing the show and talking to athletes like you. We hope you enjoyed your time as well.
Yeah, I definitely did. This is my, first time doing a podcast like this. And the thing that I enjoyed about it the most is, rehashing some of those memories, and being able to share it with guys like you. So thank you guys for allowing me, giving me the platform to do it.
Perfect. We'd love to have you back
Yeah.
on at any time. I think I can speak for these guys. We'd love to have you back on and just, relive your playing days and what you were able to do for the game, or, talk about a little Texas A&M ranked number 3
Oh,
in the
yeah.
country right now.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
for that.
yes,
So,
absolutely.
again, we thank you and enjoy the rest of your night.
Yeah, well, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Perfect.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
All right. Well, boys,
What a show.
that was pretty good, huh?
Yeah.
So
Such a humble guy.
he
Yeah.
was, and I think that's partially, and I think you kind of killed it right there at the end when you said that's kind of the reason why we like doing this, is not only just kind of, memories from them from their playing days, and getting to tell us, I love the draft question too. They, we saw it with Chris Hovan, right? Chris Hovan talking about his draft time, and then all the way to Kuika Mitchell, who there wasn't really a draft night for me. I was,
Yeah.
but we were having a child at that night. And then obviously Quentin Jammer being a top 5 guy, so he was literally there. So I love the draft night question. I love that. And then, I see Caleb in the comments. Caleb, newest member of the War Room. Thanks, buddy. We look forward to having you back on here tomorrow, along with Cody. Both those guys had commitments tonight, and that's okay. We were able to.
Is it?
Well, depends on who you ask.
Sorry.
So
I think my favorite part of Jason Webster was, and we kind of get that moment with each of them where they kind of just light up, and when they like, man, I just like remembering some of this, right? Like, man, taking me back and bringing back memories. And he even said, maybe not all sweet, but like kind of lit up and was like, man, I kind of enjoy remembering these things, and that's what it's about, right? Like helping them remember some of those days, getting to know them, and then seeing what they want to be remembered by. So I just love when they get that little light up moment and they're like, man, these are some good memories.
Hey, Matt,
Absolutely.
did that kind of have like a Sylvester Morris feel to you?
A little bit, yeah, definitely. Just like him reminiscing, and kind of like what Austin said, seeing his face light up as he's talking about like going to different stadiums and matching up against these receivers. I mean, he just, and especially when he was like, man, I love like bringing back memories, and just seeing how happy he was. Like you can tell he was living in the moment. It was the same thing with Sylvester Morris, like just living in that moment or reliving that moment. From draft day, we're like, man, all these guys that I started over, they're going like maybe I wasn't good enough, and then hearing your name called, and regardless to anyone who gets drafted, you're still a draft pick higher than it will ever be. So, yep. So, I mean that's amazing.
How about it being kind of impressive on? I can't remember who the other one was that we had. Was it Emerson, who didn't even play corner till college, and like it's kind of the same thing with this, right? Like he was running back, receiver, and
Dude almost went to KU.
Yeah, almost went. Dang it! Who knows how that would have gone?
Darn.
But it's right. It's another one of those where like he didn't really get that until college, and he still ended up being a high draft pick and making one hell of an NFL career out of it. It makes you wonder if he did start that technique, younger and work that way, how it would go. But that's always the amazing part with me. Some of these corners are like, man, we didn't even play corner till like senior year of high school or until we got to college, and yet. I think it just goes to show how hard they work and their athleticism and everything like that.
And just to showcase his talent, we didn't really bring it up in the intro because I was trying to speed it up so we can get out of here. He was the first rookie for the 49ers in 15 years to return an interception for a touchdown.
Yep.
And that's huge. To go 15 years without a rookie returning a pick for a touchdown, and he was the one to do it.
Hey,
bang, Niner gain right there.
Yeah, you're etched into any part of 49ers history. It's something because whether you like them or you don't, like it's a storied franchise.
It is.
Like
absolutely
plain and simple. So you're etched into any kind of history. You're the first one to do something for so long. It is special.
And I will say, I see Mom in the comments over here. His first collegiate touchdown was against Oklahoma.
Boom.
So, just saying, Oklahoma couldn't even stop the dude from getting his first touchdown in college. So that's just where he's at on that. So, guys, there was some news today, huh?
Oh boy.
Oh yeah.
There was a trade or two.
Just a little.
Let's talk about the one that's relevant to the war room. Obviously Cody's not in here to kind of give his 2 cents on it, but I know he dropped a video earlier. Jacoby Meyer to the Jaguars.
That's probably I think that's the second biggest one for the AFC West.
That we knew it was coming. It's not who I thought he was going to end up with. I know that there were some other teams kind of peeping around. I know I saw Buffalo was looking at him. And then there was Patriots were also kind of looking in that direction. Matt, we don't have to see Jacoby Meyer Thursday now.
No, we do not.
Oh,
absolutely
no.
Not.
Oh darn! But
the scales have been tipped now.
They do have Brock Bowers back, and we'll dive into some of that tomorrow. Very short week for Matt and I, so we get to we'll dive into some Broncos Raiders tomorrow. Not much to really dive into from our perspective, but we'll at least let our Raider guy in here to kind of defend himself with that. So Quinnen Williams, the Cowboys kind of started it off this morning. Logan Wilson, Quinnen Williams. Obviously, I'm not sure what the Colts were thinking, giving up 2 1s for Sauce. I personally would have freaked out if I saw maybe it's just the trauma. Denver giving up a couple for Russ, and we saw how that panned out. Obviously, Sauce Gardner's a corner, so it's completely different. Matt, what do you think of the Sauce Gardner move?
To be honest, I've never been sold on Sauce Gardner. I think he's a good corner, but I felt like he's overrated. I think he holds a lot, and he just gets away with a lot of holding calls, and then. Again, I know I'm going to get some flack for it, but I just think he's overrated. He's definitely not worth 2 1s, maybe a second rounder, but to give up 2-1s for a guy that, again, he's overrated. I don't know what it is about him, but he doesn't have like that shutdown factor like Pat Surtain does. And I know there's always that rivalry of who's better, Sauce or Pat, but I just felt, Sauce is overrated, and I think he wasn't worth 2-1s.
Yeah, and I know you have strong feelings about Sauce Gardner just watching him, so let's hear yours.
I'm gonna echo what Matt said and probably think even less of him than Matt. If I have a shutdown corner, I want him to actually shut down. Thing like, yes, he's always in pretty decent position, but I don't know. Like, I want you to actually shut a part of the field down, and
Right.
and all that. Like, he's not big, so he's not physical. He's in position, but he doesn't make necessarily a lot of plays. I think the only reason he got 2 first round is because they did just sign him to an extension,
And he's young.
and he is still young.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the saving grace is you got a young corner who is good. Let's not say he's not. He is a good corner. I'm still going to take like Pat Surtain, Christian Gonzalez, and corners like that over him. But I think you give a guy like that to Lou Anarumo,
Yep.
and I think the ceiling might be increased. But as far as, I think the Jets clearly win that trade.
Jets won the day.
Yeah,
Jets won the day.
yeah. They did, but I don't know. Sauce Gardner with the Jets, I do think he was overrated. I do think the ceiling with Lou Anarumo and a good organization could be elevated some. And they do already have like Traveris Ward. So like, it's going to be a good cornerback room either way. But I just, like you guys said, 2 first round picks for this. That's up there. Now, if you're the Colts, you better make one hell of a playoff run, because that's what this trade is doing.
Mm-hmm.
You're basically saying we're all in. We're giving up a little bit of our future to make a playoff run. So you better hope you do it. You better hope Daniel Jones keeps this momentum and you ride into the playoff strong, because if you don't, there's going to be even more questions about this than there already is.
Well, maybe not this momentum, because last week the real Daniel Jones showed up. But yeah, to your point, yeah.
And stay tuned tomorrow. I have some thoughts on that one. But
I still think the winner of the day, and I know it's a small one, I still think it was the Chargers getting that left tackle.
yeah, Penning from the Saints. So I was going to bring that up next. Obviously, man, the Chargers, their luck with offensive linemen right now are not strong. But I do like this move. He's good. He's serviceable, and he didn't really have to give up much for him. And he's going to be able to slide in right there, and it sends a message, right? Like, we can talk all we want about the Chiefs and Broncos kind of standing pat, not doing anything. The Chargers needed to do something, whether it was, a small signing or, a small trade like this, but it still sends a message of like, hey, we know it's an issue. We know we have a problem. And we also know that Joe Alt's not coming back this season. Now both of our starting tackles are done for the season. We needed to do something with this. And I see Caleb in the comments as well. I'm excited to hear his kind of thoughts on this tomorrow, because again, we talked in length about Justin Herbert's health and losing both your starting tackles, and he's already getting beat up as is. And that was
backup tackles.
And backup tackles.
They're all going.
They're all going down. So I'll start with you first on your thoughts on this. And is it I think it's a steal.
It absolutely is a steal. And I don't know his contract. I don't know if he's going to be able to do like a swing tackle next year while these tackles are coming back. But even if it goes into next year, it's an even bigger steal. But I think it was a good thing to get a tackle for Justin Herbert's blind side. You couldn't go out and fix the whole offensive line at the trade deadline. That would just be too pricey. But at least the blind side, right? Like, protect that side of him. Herbert is athletic enough to see what's right in front of his face to try to ease that pain a little bit. So the Chargers are a good team. I know I've said a lot about the Chargers, but plain and simple, they are a good team. The offensive line issues, I think, are the reason they've stumbled a little bit. And to get Penning for the price that they did, I think it's enough for the Chargers to be taken serious. Now, again, who knows what injuries can still come, but just right now where the team stands, it's a move that was great. I think it was the move that was most needed by any of the teams that traded for something. Like, this was the biggest need out of any of the teams that traded for something, and they spent the less and got a quality player. So I think it was a steal. I don't like saying it about the Chargers, but if he stays healthy, it solves 50% of their problem, and that's pretty massive.
It's really hard to get a tackle or an offensive lineman at a trade deadline that's, a plug-and-play guy right away. I know Denver, back when Peyton Manning was still here, they almost got Joe Thomas from the Browns, but that obviously fell through. But I was listening to someone and I don't remember which one it was, but I was listening, and they were talking about offensive linemen in the trades. They just say it's like a quarterback. It's really hard to just trade for one and expect him to come in right away. But the Chargers got one.
Yep.
They really got one here, and yeah. So we obviously have nothing really to report on the Chiefs Broncos. The Chiefs did offer a 4th round for Breece Hall, but they wanted a 3rd. Denver was in on Waddle, but the Dolphins wanted a 1st round pick. So Matt, we can breathe easy knowing we didn't give up a 1st round pick for Jalen Waddle, who's an injury prone guy.
And yeah, like I said, I kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, but am I disappointed that they didn't get anyone to kind of help with, the receiving game? Yeah, a little bit. Denver is still 3rd in the league in drop passes. It was very evident in last week's game against the Texans.
Yes.
But I can, like you said, breathe a sigh of relief because they didn't sell the farm to go after injury prone or someone who's going to want a huge contract. We've been there. We've done that. It didn't work out. Troy Franklin, this is going to be his breakout year. He's getting more targets now in the last 3 weeks than he ever has. So I think they're going to ride with what they got. They have young talent. Cortland Sutton is still Cortland Sutton, who's a monster. So, again, 50-50, but it's a sigh of relief.
Yeah, and I saw they asked Troy Franklin today, is that a sign of confidence that, they end up not getting a receiver? And he said, hell yeah. He's like, the coach told me before the season it was my time, and he's keeping his word. So that's a huge boost and a huge confidence boost for a young guy who we are going to have to rely on. Cortland can't do it all himself, and I do expect more from Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims, and now that we're kind of starting to sprinkle in Pat Bryant a little bit, I have high expectations for this. And now I know it was kind of a mixed bag on X today, reading Bronco fans, and a couple were like, well, when drop passes cost us the postseason, remember today. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, we don't have much money on the salary cap to begin with. 2, we're going to have an okay amount of cap heading into the offseason. I'd much rather do offseason moves going into next season than just trading draft capital now, when George Payton's actually had a pretty good draft run the last couple of seasons. So that's all I have to say as far as the Broncos go. Anything on the Chiefs as far as their lack of moves?
Well, I was going to say it towards Denver, but it can also be said towards the Chiefs. We've mentioned it during baseball trade deadline that, sometimes the best move you made is the move you didn't make, for the reason you guys were kind of just talking about, Troy Franklin, hell yes, that's a boost of confidence. Sometimes when you don't go make that move to your quote unquote glaring needs, that is a confidence booster to that room within your organization. So it could benefit, for the Broncos receivers, little boost of confidence, may have a few less drops here or there, so sometimes when you don't make the move, it's the best move to make. And, I get why the Chiefs don't, because they're in the same, they don't have hardly any cap room. They don't have much draft capital. Again, you think you have enough in-house already. This is a large part of this roster has been on plenty of the runs with the Chiefs to begin with. You kind of just got to figure it out in-house. And I think that's what the Chiefs they're going to use the bye week to really reset. And I think, the defensive line, the running back room, seeing that the Chiefs didn't go out and improve it when everyone says you guys suck, that might be a little confidence boost. So we'll see. I'm not someone who wants to give up 2 first-round picks for a corner. I was iffy on if I would have liked to do that Quinnen Williams trade, because I think it was a few weeks ago I told my brother, I'm like, if the Jets fire sell him, I would give up a first for him. Now I'm not going to give up 2 firsts, but if we give up a first and a third and our 4th D tackle like the Cowboys did, I might have been okay with it. But
he's a dude who's owed $22 million through next season.
We can't have that with him.
And he's going to want to. He's obviously going to get a mega deal. And is the time Jerry is actually going to pay up somebody? I don't know, but that's a lot of money to take on. And yes, I know you'd get him through next season, but beyond that. And the Cowboys, terrible loss last night. Now you're 3-5-1, and you're giving up a lot of draft capital today. So this is more of a desperation move than making your team better, and I'll dive into that tomorrow. But
They did have the extra first because of Parsons, so I got to believe that if you're willing to give that up, you're basically saying we're going to pay Quinnen Williams. That way we can make sure we match the all-pro level. Now, he's not Micah Parsons, but he is a Pro Bowler / all-pro. You're kind of saying that we will pay him, and that kind of puts you in a rough spot because now they can come asking for the moon, and now you're like, well, we gave up that draft pick for Micah. What do we do now? So I do think it was an overreaction from last night. I like the Logan Wilson trade because he didn't give up anything, but this Quinnen one, it's never a bad thing to get a player like Quinnen, but you do have to look at the returns. And I don't know. It's Cowboys are going to cowboy. Only time will tell.
Mhm.
Maddie, we have a couple big time guests coming up. Do you want to lay it out for everybody for next week?
Absolutely. So next week, mark your calendars, Wednesday the 12th, former Bronco defensive lineman, Super Bowl 50 champion, Sylvester Williams will be on the show. Corey and I are definitely excited. Austin loves the big uglies, as he calls them. He loves the guys in the trenches. All of us are super excited for that one. And right now, we are in the works of getting Garrett Bowles on. However, Jen Bjorn is someone who he partnered with to start his foundation, have agreed to come on the show November 19th. He will be on the show to talk about their organization. They are going to talk to Garrett and see if his schedule is clear that day. And if it is, we could be seeing a current Bronco on the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Another guy in the trenches.
Another guy in the trenches.
So we miss our compadres, Caleb and Cody, tonight. Again, they had obligations prior to. So, again, they'll be back tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll kind of dive into nice little Raider Broncos matchup, and we'll kind of look in. It's Raiders week for Matt and I.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. It doesn't
anymore.
mean much right now, but hey, Cody's not here to defend himself, so we'll keep it to a minimum.
In their defense, they looked like a competitive team this week.
Well, I'll let Cody be the judge on that, and he can.
I didn't say good.
He can give you guys his takes on that. Maddie?
Yep, we're either getting a crash out or we are,
It's
you and
crash
I will.
out.
Yeah, it's gonna.
Or you and I will be doing a crash out.
Yeah, we'll be doing a crash out, but I guess it's time to wrap it up.
Take us home.
Taking us home. All right. Again, this is the West War Room Rivals podcast coming at you from the JBW Solutions Studio. JBW Solutions Studio. Veteran owned, safety focused, community driven. Probably butcher that. I'll get grounded later because it is my dad, but hey, whatever. Nepo baby. Angie and her team at Emporia State Federal Credit Union, the Shovicks brothers banking of choice, Troy from Field Ops, Field Marking, our other sponsors as well, Badger Barrel Cookers and a World of Butterflies. Be a Badger. Homage. Austin and I are rocking their apparel right now. Spy Optic, Beard Club, Shank-It Golf, and I'm probably missing one. I hope I'm not missing one. I think that's everyone. It's a mouthful, but tune in tomorrow as we go over this week's matchups, and we will see you there.